Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Mariana5 from Razor Edge, and I'm here again with Follow 86. We've got another hand from our Discord group. So, Pocket Queens in the small blind, under the gun limp, solid rig, raises to 5x here. Standard stuff so far. Low jack, I guess an unknown just calls. Now it's on us. Definitely want to be squeezing here. Obviously, we're going to have a tight range, but Queens is just like way too strong not to squeeze. I could start calling with like nines. I think tens mainly still raising too. Calling with tens probably okay, I guess, at a full ring. But I think like jacks plus, I want to be squeezing personally for
Yeah,
sure.
100%.
So he does squeeze. What do you think about his sizing here?
Yeah, I think when we are 100 big blinds deep, just with the solid rack, it's fine. But as we can see, we are playing 250 big blinds effective with the solid rack, and we are not heads up. We are three-handed, right? Because the low jack already called the $10, so we should definitely make it way bigger. So at least 60, probably even 70, given that we are so deep, because we want to deny equity. And when we make it so small pre-flop, even like $50, $55. I think solid rack is just folding nothing from his raising range, so we deny zero equity. And of course, we are threading a somewhat wide range. We also bet thread hands like ace 10 suited, ace jack suited, king queen suited, all the stuff. And I definitely want to have some full equity with those hands. With queens and kings and aces, it's really whatever, right? But we still don't want to give him a too good of a price with hands like 6, 7 suited and stuff. Also want to charge those hands at least a little bit, so definitely looking for a bigger squeeze sizing here.
Yeah, for sure. Try to go like, yeah, I think like at least 60. I think 50
Yeah.
would, yeah, if you're like 100 big blinds deep, maybe just 5x standard or like 55, but
Yep.
then add a bit because we're deep. And then, because now it's like he's probably not going to fold much, and then the low jack is like never folding. I mean, not I shouldn't say never, but he'll be coming along like way too often, and it's not really ideal playing three handed here.
Out of
And
position. Nope,
yeah,
not a fun
and
spot.
there's this guy too who limps and then just calls the. I mean, you see that a lot. Who
Yeah.
knows what the hell he has? Maybe pocket twos now. Uh, anyways, yeah. Whoops, sorry. So he comes out betting here for 90. So that's like what is that, like two-thirds? What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think betting on this flop is a good idea. Given that we are three-handed, we can definitely bet a little bit smaller, cause multi-way we can just lower our bet sizings a little bit. We should still be polarized, right? We should not bet flop of our entire range, that's for sure.
Yeah,
But I think I like everything around 50% on the flop. And yeah, some good backdoor draws, some over pairs, probably still checking some aces and stuff on the flop to protect our range a little bit,
mm-hmm.
to not be too face up. We also want to have some hands that we can check shove against the bet. So hands like kings or aces are usually a pretty good candidate for something like this,
Mm-hmm.
because we don't need to protect our equity so much. Because when we have like jacks or tens and the flop goes check check, we have a problem. But with kings and aces, it's not such a big deal because only the ace is a scare card now.
Yeah, fully agree with all that. Definitely want to be tens, jacks, queens. I think are like the prime candidates to be betting here.
Yeah, definitely.
So solid rig calls turn, not the greatest card. What
Oh.
do you think now?
Yeah, those spots are really tough to play. It looks quite easy, but we should remember that the solid rack is still having some strong hands, right? He has hands like sevens, five deuces. So it's not that we always want to get in like 250 big blinds on the
Mm-hmm.
turn and river and call it off.
Yeah.
Especially the ace is a bad card. We have some ace X, right? We have hands like ace X with backdoors. That's for sure. So ace X diamonds, hearts, clubs. We're betting on the flop. Mm. So with queens, I think it's hard to extract a lot of value from worse, because when we bet turn, which worse hands are really calling? I cannot find too many, or can you think about a lot of hands that call turn?
No, not too many. I think in these positions, yeah, we should just be checking quite often. Because yeah, you can still have some, he can have the set. I don't know if he'll have twos. I think a lot of solid rigs are just folding that under the gun, maybe even fives, but he can still have, as you say, like ace X. And I'm pretty sure in theory, if this was like button versus like small blind, these spots might just be bet like at a really high frequency, right? Just because our range is really strong. But I think here against under the gun in this formation, yeah, it's just like he can. It's too tough to get like three streets, and we can still check turn. If it goes check check, we can certainly put like a blocker bet on the river, right, and just attack like his whatever eights through jacks or 7x or whatever. So I think I'd rather play it that way because if you bet here, it's going to be tough, because if he calls and then river you can't bet, and then you're going to be faced with a pretty tough decision. Whereas if you check, most players are going to play pretty honestly here and just like check back. And we know because we bet big on the flop into like four players, he's not going to float us with like, I don't know, like 10 jack of diamonds or something, right? Whereas if we were heads up in a spot like that, like late position, that's definitely a possibility, right? Against like even a half pot size bet. But I think here his range is much narrowed, so he's just going to have like a lot of check back hands that we're doing fine against. So yeah, I just check it.
Yeah, really, really good point. Yeah, I think the turn is really bad in this situation because we are not three betting a ton of ace X hands, and even if we do, we check a lot of those on the flop. So yeah, turn is definitely a little bit better for our opponent than for us. This is a problem in those positions, right? When you play with tight ranges against early positions. So yeah, I also think when we bet turn, we get into super dicey situations on the river. This is just a little bit too thin. I think when we play against the biggest calling station ever, I don't mind betting turn and shoving river when we think he calls with all the overpairs to 7x, like 8s, 9s, 10s, and even with 7x sometimes on the river, because he's a non-believer. It's fine, but if not, we should go a little bit more polarized and check turn.
Yeah, for sure. And we can still have, like as you say, we don't have a ton of ace X, but we do have some. So we're not worried about like never having strong hands here, right? Like we can still have, yeah. I mean, you talked about it before about like the strong ace X suited. So I think just like checking our whole range is totally fine here, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So he does bet, which it's just it's not the worst. Like who knows? It's not necessarily like a terrible play, but I think we both agree that just checking and playing a bit of poker is going to be much easier. So he gets called, and now on the river, I don't think betting makes sense anymore. I mean, we have a half pot bet, but I think against a reg, like it's going to be pretty tough to get called by worse ever here. I don't see people just like calling three streets with tens or something. So
I think sometimes when we're in position, there are some advantages, especially when the board is draw heavy, right? When we want to bet middling type hands on the turn to get to free showdown. But here it's different, right? When we bet turn, we are not at the free showdown. We are still out of position, so we still have to check or bet, and our opponent can still bet into us. So this is not a thing when you're out of position. So out of position, we mainly want to check turn. And I also see basically not a single hand that can call a river shove that is worse than queens.
Yeah, I agree. So he checks, which is good, and now solid reg bets. So I mean, this sucks, obviously.
Yeah, not much we can do. I mean, we get a good price, right?
That's the thing.
But that's about it. I cannot find enough bluffs, so I'm happily folding here. And the thing is, even when you have like a weak ace, right? In theory, even if we have like ace 9 suited or whatever, or ace 10 suited, sure, we are not beating like two pairs and ace queen, ace king, but at least we have an ace, so we block ace X in our opponent's range. And with queens, we block pocket queens by our opponent. Nice. So we block maybe some bluffs. So definitely not something we want to bluff catch with. This is just way too wide, and this hand fits perfectly into our river check fold range, I think.
Yeah, I agree. There's just not people just aren't in this formation. It's just too hard to find bluffs the way this hand played out. Like multi-way, under the gun, and then we squeeze and it goes four-way to the flop, and this action goes down. Like it just sometimes you got to get away from it. And I think this is one of those spots. But Hero decides to call anyways, and
he heroed it off.
As it turned out, this guy actually had a bluff, so that's pretty interesting. But I wouldn't take this hand as like a use this as an example of why you want to be calling down these spots, because I don't see this happening much at all. So
yeah, completely agree. I mean, we are playing effective for so many big blinds, right? Like 250 big blinds effective, and he's just shoving over 100 big blinds on the river. This is not happening too often in live games, especially when you think how the player pool is playing in those 1-2, 2-2, 2-4 games. Most of the time, player pool is fairly passive. It's tight range against early position. Most players are playing somewhat honest. And even if we see something like this, like you mentioned, it's not happening too often. So still play according to your strategy. And as we mentioned before, we have Ace Axe, right? There's no need to hero it off when, this is not our top range. We have so many better hands to bluff catch with that have a way higher EV. So even if I now see, okay, he's bluffing 7-6, the next time I'm probably still folding with queens and jacks because I have enough Ace Axe. No need to call so much loser than usual.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. So it works sometimes, work this time. But yeah, just watch out. But yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed that hand, and we'll talk to you later in the next video.
Yeah, see ya.
See you guys.